Okay, so from 2001 through 2019, the New England Patriots casted a dark cloud over the entire NFL to the likes of which we've never seen before, and that's cool and all, but how did they do it? And not only that, but how did they keep the dynasty going for so long, maintaining their excellence the entire time? And well, turns out the answer is a bit more complicated than just, than just Tom. This era of Patriots football accomplished something that no other team will likely ever accomplish in NFL history. And well, you see how long the video is, right? Let me not waste any of your time, and let's get right into the rise and fall of the evil empire of the NFL, the New England Patriots. Once upon a time, a long time ago, the New England Patriots were one of, if not the most laughed at, pathetic organization in sports. Can you believe that? In 1992, the team led by Dick McPherson and all nobody won 2 games and were at an all-time low, so a change had to be done, and in 1993, Bill Parcells was brought in to be the head coach, and after the 93 season, a guy who was most known for doing various things with paper by the name of Robert Kraft purchased the New England Patriots for a measly $172 million. Immediately, though, Robert's skills as an owner were tested. When he showed up, Parcells was clearly building something special. 22-year-old quarterback Drew Bledsoe was an emerging star and appeared to be an invaluable resource, and there was also gold yet to be uncovered in linebacker Willie McGinnis and wide receiver / DB Troy Brown. However, their time had yet to come, and in 1994 the Patriots fell in the divisional round to the Cleveland Browns, coached by a man named Bill Belichick. And believe it or not, you're going to hear that name a few times going forward in this video. And 2 years later, the Bill Parcells connection prior with Bill Belichick in New York helped the Patriots take him on board. And in 1996, Bill Belichick became the assistant head coach in New England. And who's to say if it was a coincidence or not, but with these two fiery assholes yelling at grown sweaty men all day long, the Patriots had arguably their best season in franchise history. With Bledsoe emerging, the Patriots cruised through the divisional and AFC championship rounds, outscoring their opponents 48-9 en route to the Super Bowl, where, to be honest with you, it still baffles me to this day why it happened in this big of a moment, but Robert Kraft and Bill Parcells decided to have a bit of a lover's spat. Parcells wanted to pack his bags and find a new home after the season, but there was a few words in Parcells' contract with the Patriots that said he couldn't coach somewhere else, so after throwing a fit about that, the Patriots had their second ever Super Bowl to play in, and what everyone assumed would happen, it happened. The revealer and the Packers won the game 35-21, proving they were the better team, and now, with Parcells gone immediately afterwards, he just left right away, Robert Kraft would need to find a new head coach, and luckily for him, there was a certain grumpy assistant coach who seemed like just the perfect candidate for the job. But he ignored him. For some reason, Robert Kraft just wasn't feeling the vibe with Bill and let Belichick walk to the Jets and instead hired former Jets head coach Pete Carroll. Now, this is where the what-ifs get pretty interesting. With hindsight, we now know Pete Carroll is a great coach. He was fantastic at USC, and we'll get to his Seattle teams in like an hour, but as of the recording of this video, he's still coaching the Seahawks to moderate success, and actually in his 3 seasons coaching the Patriots, from 1997 through 1999, he never logged a single losing season. However, progressively, he lost the locker room more and more, and for some more fun, let's throw in some NFL staples in sexual assault and battery charges while you're technically in charge of this whole on-the-field operation, and that's how you get yourself fired by the owner without even doing that bad of a job. And meanwhile, with the Patriots having an open seat, Bill Belichick was preparing to be sworn in as the head coach of the New York Jets, and unfortunately for New England, it was official. On January 4th, 2000, Bill Belichick was officially the head coach of the New York... I mean, you know how this ended though, right? Jets fans, you need to stay in your endless chamber of agony for a little bit longer, and the next day, Bill Belichick wrestled with Parcells a little, who was the assuming general manager of the Jets, and cited the death of former Jets owner Leon Hess as a valid reason to resign, and after allegedly handing his resignation letter in on a napkin, he went to a press conference where he said in his own words he was stepping down, and the Jets now didn't have a head coach, and Bill Belichick was right back on the market. And this time, Robert Kraft swooped in and didn't let Bill go. But there was fight on the Jets' part. Belichick was still technically under contract with the Jets, but Parcells deep down knew there was no salvaging the situation, and at least got a few draft picks out of the whole thing, and in a matter of weeks, Bill Belichick went from the coach of the Jets to the coach of the Patriots. And like Kraft before him, he too was put to work immediately, as sitting in front of him was the 2000 NFL Draft, where the main character of this incredible journey will be introduced. So the draft was underway, but the Patriots didn't have their first round pick from the Belichick trade, so they had to go dumpster diving, and from rounds 2 through 4, their selections really didn't pan out. Not a single one of these three dudes would become consistent starters, and past round 5, the Patriots' game plan was to start just taking random shots in the dark at boom or bust guys, and that's when Patriots quarterbacks coach Dick Rabine's previous research on Michigan quarterback Thomas Edward Patrick Brady started to intrigue Bill Belichick. For some reason, Dick here was dead set on Tom Brady being better than any quarterback in the 2000 draft class. And I mean, watching Tom go through the combine here, I'll give him that. I can see a future man here. And he insisted he had a ton of overwhelming positive skills. He said he was poised, composed, smart, can read coverages, and has all the intangibles you could ask for with the ability to even show up in big games. But come round 6, the Patriots still decided to pass on Tom going with a DB. And I mean, of course they did. Why the f*** would they ever take a chance on a walking noodle when they already had 3 quarterbacks on the roster and a proven Super Bowl level quarterback in Drew Bledsoe? But just 12 picks later, Belichick gave in and drafted Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. So, with our 2 protagonists introduced, it's time to get to know all the other side characters who are going to be very important in this story. Now, the 2000 season for the Patriots didn't go great. They only won 5 games, and all you need to know is that somehow their 6th round pick Thomas made the roster, and to lock up Drew Bledsoe for his entire life basically, the Patriots signed Drew Bledsoe to a 10-year, $103 million contract that broke pretty much every record existing. So ahead of the 2001 season, this is what the roster was looking like. They were still led by Drew Bledsoe, the Patriots' 3-time Pro Bowl quarterback, but the pieces around him were there. Unfortunately, I can't go in depth on all of these guys, but some major contributors to this team's future and present include Kevin Falk, David Patton, Troy Brown, Matt Light, Lawyer Malloy, and Antoine Smith. So these guys were very important, but then we move up into the upper level. The Legion of Men, just a little bit more crucial to the Patriots' long-term sustained success, which include names you may have heard before, like Mike Vrabel, Richard Seymour, the previously mentioned Willie McGinnis, Ty Law, Adam Vinatieri, and Teddy Bruschi, and, of course, Tom Brady. But we'll get there when we get there. Did it move? So, with talent on the roster and a year of Belichick's culture beginning to corrupt the minds of his loyal soldiers, it was time to see if he could do anything successful as the Patriots head coach, or at least outperform their expectations of being the last-ranked team in the league. And in Week 1, the Patriots lost to a 6-10 Bengals team, so one of the best Cincinnati teams of that era. And in Week 2, lost a game to the New York Jets 3-10, where the ordinary events of the hero's journey were completely destroyed. In this average Jets-Patriots game, Drew Bledsoe got his spine rearranged by Jets linebacker Mo Lewis and literally almost died. Bledsoe lied in his hospital bed with broken ribs, a lacerated artery, blood pooling in his chest, and a punctured lung. So just like that, with Belichick, Kraft, and others visiting their franchise quarterback clinging onto life itself, they look back around at the 220-ish pounds of raw sex appeal behind them, and in Belichick's eyes, this was actually a good thing, believe it or not. An often forgotten about detail is during the 2001 Patriots training camp, Bill Belichick made it clear to Robert Kraft that if he didn't sign Bledsoe to that Titanic contract, he would be starting the best quarterback the team had, and that guy was Tom Brady. Now, Kraft thought Belichick was huffing paint fumes, but like it or not, Brady was now the guy, and his first regular season challenge in his entire NFL career. I can't believe this is happening, but I guess the NFL gods have a way of making this sort of stuff go down. And in his first ever NFL start, Tom Brady would play against Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts, the clear antagonist of this story. The character dynamic between these two will come to just be fascinating, and already at the time, it was looking pretty interesting. One guy was heralded as the best quarterback prospect since John Elway, and the other was just some part-time backup quarterback from Michigan, but their paths had now crossed, and the game itself was a demolition. Peyton was picked off 3 times, and the Patriots defense clamped up, winning the game 44-13, setting the tone for this rivalry going forward. And with his first start out of the way and the butterflies gone, from weeks 3 through 10, Tom Brady, a second-year, 6th-round draft choice, was playing actually solid. You know, I guess it was nothing crazy, but he was still relatively impressive for the sample size, except as the season went on, Drew Bledsoe was eventually cleared to play again, and now Bill Belichick was faced with the biggest decision of his coaching career. Does he stick with the second-year unknown Tom Brady, who's been playing with momentum, or does he go back to their Pro Bowl, Super Bowl-worthy franchise quarterback in Drew Bledsoe? There's a case to be made that this decision would change Belichick's entire future. As of week 10 of 2001, Bill actually had a losing record with the Patriots, and if he fucked this up, he might lose both the locker room and his job, but the decision that he made would honor the core philosophy Belichick would use to build the Patriots in the future. Your name doesn't matter. If you give the team the best chance to win football games, you're in, and if you don't, you're out. And Tom Brady was announced to keep the starting job unless his body got Mo Lewis'd in the future. And believe it or not, hey, maybe this Tom Brady guy is a little bit better than we thought. And the Patriots, led by a very, very strong defense, rallied and won every game after their Week 10 loss to the greatest show on turf, Rams, finishing their first season primarily under Tom and Bill, and with an 11-5 record, the Patriots would host the Raiders in the divisional round. And it's time for me to get a little bit sad. Now, I wasn't alive for this game, but as a Raiders fan, I don't know, it's in my blood or something. I can't help but feel the pain from this game. Although the Patriots came into this blizzard-like environment barely favored, the first half was a fucking mess. Tom Brady's stats at halftime were some of the worst of his career. He looked overwhelmed by the moment and was even getting booed by his home crowd, and down 13-3 in the fourth quarter, in these conditions, pulling off a comeback victory seemed unlikely. Now, if they were playing any team other than maybe the Browns, Jets, or Raiders, no shot the Patriots would have been able to have so much go right in such a short amount of time. But after scoring a touchdown and falling on his head, both teams slogged on until 2 minutes were on the clock and the Patriots were driving. And on this fateful play, his former Michigan teammate Charles Woodson came flying in off a blitz, and the ball came out.
Blitz. Lost the football. It's on the ground. Covered by the Raiders.
After reviewing the play, the quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass.
I will give no further comment on the tuck rule, but the bullfuckery didn't stop there. Patriots kicker Adam Vinatieri still had to kick a 45-yard field goal in a raging snowstorm, but if any kicker in NFL history were to make this kick, it would be him, and the Iceman knocked it right through the uprights, and here came overtime. At this point, the Raiders just got caught up with destiny. Fate had grabbed the Patriots, and the Raiders were simply in the way. The Patriots won the coin toss, and after an 8-minute drive, including a gutsy 4th down conversion, a 23-yard field goal went in. Patriots advance. I want to cry. Sorry, that got a little personal, but moving on to the AFC Championship game, everyone except for the offense stepped up for the Patriots in the big game. The heavily favored Pittsburgh Steelers were their opponent, and they were dismantled by the Patriots defense and special teams. And after almost benching Tom Brady in the game versus Oakland, now Tom Brady was injured in the second quarter, forcing Bill Belichick's hand, and making him bring in Drew Bledsoe, who closed out the game and clinched a third Super Bowl appearance for the New England Patriots in franchise history. All right, I mean, it was a fun year, but let's be honest with ourselves. This team caught so many lucky breaks that the tuck rule, multiple non-offensive touchdowns in the AFC Championship, I mean, this can't keep consistently happening, right? And now standing in front of them was the greatest show on turf Rams, led by current and past MVP Kurt Warner, past MVP Marshall Faulk, and others. They already had won a Super Bowl and were looking to become a dynasty, and they fully believed they were about to be too, with wide receiver and ongoing abuse victim of Thomas, Ricky Prohl, famously saying to the camera on Super Bowl introductions, "Tonight, a dynasty is born." A bold move, definitely a bold move. And obviously the Rams were the overwhelming favorites because of course they would be. This team owned the last 3 MVP awards given out, and one of the best offenses of all time too. However, Bill Belichick, the man the Rams were scheming against, had been here before. If you've watched my Buffalo Bills Super Bowl misery video, you'd know Bill Belichick was once the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants, who was able to contain the best offense in football at the time and pull off a massive Super Bowl upset. And after hours upon hours of stewing in his own filth, Belichick had it. The perfect game plan to beat the Rams. And the main ingredient was beating the ever-loving fuck out of all the Rams players. And so they did, stretching the fine line stated in the Mel Blount rule where you can't bump a receiver after 5 yards, and in combination with a strong pass rush, the Patriots held a 17-3 lead in the fourth quarter, but this wasn't all on the defense. They put full faith in Tom Brady to be able to carry his own weight and perform under pressure, a quality that was speculated to be one of his strengths in college if you can remember. But with 10 minutes left in the game, Tom looked like he didn't even have to do anything else. The Patriots had a chance to end the game right now. 4th and goal on the 3-yard line. All they needed was one stop, and in one of the most iconic plays in NFL history, DeBucky Jones returns a fumble 97 yards for a game-sealing touchdown. But no. Turns out, while running a route, Marshall Faulk was bear hugged by Willie McGinnis, and according to Marshall, and partly Belichick's scheme, this had been going on all game. He was practically getting tackled countless times with no flags before, but no matter, the momentum had swung completely, and the Rams offense tied the game at 17 apiece after some touchdowns, with the Patriots offense, led by Tom Brady, a second-year quarterback, given one opportunity to ice the game if they so choose to even try, because famously, commentator John Madden highly advised against trying anything with the ball and to just play for overtime. But because of the way the game had gone in the last 20 minutes in Belichick's brain, it seemed unlikely New England would be able to contain the Rams' offense if they lost the coin toss in overtime. So instead of putting the game up to a simple 50-50, it was time to trust Tom Brady. One mistake could potentially end the game, and for such a young and inexperienced QB, nobody would really blame him if that happened. So when Belichick told Brady to simply be careful with the ball and please no turnovers, Drew Bledsoe, the man who was once the Patriots' future and who lost his job due to factors outside of his control, he didn't go full Antonio Brown, which deserves a ton of credit, and on this particular moment, told Tom Brady 7 simple words. Go out there and f***ing sling it. There was no waiting. It was now time to see if Belichick and others' faith in this quarterback who once told Robert Kraft he was the greatest decision this organization ever made was warranted or not. Did he really have all the intangibles to step up in the biggest of moments? And, well, slowly but surely, the Patriots began their drive in control and calmly. Brady safely found the open checkdowns over and over again, but in an interesting play that doesn't really get talked about much, with 29 seconds left, Tom Brady appears to commit an intentional grounding call, but there was no flag called even though it looked like he didn't get out of the box in time. Back then, intentional grounding calls were much more lenient and, I don't know, I guess entertainment value takes priority, and then afterwards, Tom Brady would throw the most important pass of his career to that point, a laser to Troy Brown for 23 yards, and moments later, Tom Brady calmly spiked the ball and jogged off the field, pulling off one of the most iconic drives in NFL history. And to finish it off, Adam Vinatieri would jog onto the field and hit a 48-yard field goal to win their first ever Super Bowl. Tom Brady did it. He had proved to Bill Belichick that he was a worthy apprentice. He performed when asked of him on the game's largest stage, and for his efforts, he was named the Super Bowl MVP. But tragically, though, the man who believed in Tom Brady most on the Patriots staff, quarterbacks coach Dick Rehbein, never got to see him ascend so quickly, as he passed away even prior to the 2001 season. Such a shame he never realized it, but he was right. He was right about Tom Brady to the level nobody could have believed, and now, do you feel that? You feel that shiver, that darkness over you? The Empire has arrived, and for the next 20 years before the promised king would come to liberate us all, we would know nothing else in the NFL, and all it took was one Cinderella run by the Patriots for everything in the NFL environment to change. Tom Brady became an international superstar. 1 year prior, he was a nobody, and now he was getting and whatnot practically dropped on his doorstep, dating supermodels and ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to stop the whole story I'm trying to tell here, but let's have a moment of prayer or something, because a truly historic event in mankind history took place when on April 15th, 2002, this Sports Illustrated photo shoot was released to the world, giving us some of the most pleasing images you'll ever see. So let's just take a moment to thank the man for this photo shoot. Now, for how thankful I am that the Patriots 2002 offseason took place. The Patriots probably weren't huge fans of it, but there were still some positives. One, the Patriots' second Death Star construction was completed, and Drew Bledsoe was gone and traded to the Bills. And with Tom Brady signing a 4-year, $28 million extension, just like that, Tom was in, Drew was out, and the Patriots' future was forever changed. Tom Brady also began to build chemistry with his new wide receiver Deion Branch in 2002, but the Patriots only finished the year 9-7, and largely due to an extremely weak run defense that allowed the second most rushing yards in the entire NFL, the Patriots missed the playoffs, and everyone dismissed the 2001 Patriots team as a fluky one-off team that will never get back to another Super Bowl. But behind the scenes, people within the building weren't even close to panicking. But then, Bill Belichick made one of his marquee, emotionless decisions that would change the Patriots organization forever. Like I said, a major issue with the Patriots in 2002 was their defense, and they helped that issue in the draft, picking up Ty Warren, a defensive end, and a corner in Asante Samuel, who will both eventually prove to be very important pieces, but Bill wanted a replacement for Lawyer Milloy. He had been playing well and was even a Pro Bowler in 2002, but his best years were clearly behind him in Bill's mind, so shockingly, the Patriots decided to cut one of their most loyal players ever before the 2003 season. This completely broke the locker room, but Bill wasn't going to cut a previous All-Pro safety without a plan, and there was a plan. And the reason Lawyer was cut was honestly he was getting outplayed in practice by another safety. Another man who would come into the Patriots Dynasty and become a crucial gem in their infinity gauntlet of becoming unstoppable.
My friend. Well, whoever we're getting back, he better be a bloody monster!
Rodney Harrison signed with the New England Patriots after being cut by the Chargers, and before this, he had a reputation of being the hardest hitting and possibly the dirtiest player in the league at his position. Exactly what Bill Belichick wanted. But the rest of the team and fan base was still a little bit split by Bill Belichick preferring the 31-year-old Harrison to the 30-year-old Lawyer. But luckily, Milloy immediately signed with the rival Drew Bledsoe-led Bills, who played New England in Week 1. So right out of the gate, we'd see how things would go without Lawyer. This was just simply embarrassing. And even Bill, I'm sure, thought for at least a second if he screwed up. And that potential self-doubt wasn't exactly helped when through Week 4, the Patriots found themselves at just a 2-2 record, including a tough loss to the 5-win Skins. But then, something special happened. The offense took a back seat, and the Patriots defense was actually just one of the best defensive units of all time in 2003. When you think of early 2000s ridiculous defensive units, the 2000 Ravens and 2002 Bucks come to mind, but the 2003 Patriots were debatably on that same level, leading New England to 12 straight wins after Week 4 and finished the season as the #1 overall unit with Rodney Harrison, Richard Seymour, and Ty Law making all-pro teams. The defense did carry, but that didn't mean Brady was bad, he just didn't have weapons. I mean, you can only do so much when your starting running back doesn't log a single rushing touchdown and you don't have a single receiver to break 1,000 yards, but who cares? The Patriots just logged a 14-win season, their best record in franchise history by a lot, and in the playoffs, they passed both of their tests given to them immediately, strangling both MVPs this year in Steve McNair and Peyton Manning slowly to clinch their second ever Super Bowl, except there was a small bit of controversy we have to get through first. You see, in 2003, the Indianapolis Colts, one of the teams beaten by the Patriots, were an elite offense, and in the win for New England, the Patriots picked off Peyton Manning 4 times, with Ty Law getting 3 of them, with Bill telling his guys to be a little extra physical as per usual. So after the game, certain higher-ups in the Colts office went to the NFL and complained about similar physicality issues the Rams were having with New England in their last Super Bowl, and eventually things such as illegal contact and adjustments to the Mel Blount rule were made, now informally known as the Ty Law rule. So that happened, but I mean, it's not like the Patriots did anything else somewhat questionable in that game, and moved on to the Super Bowl to face off against the Carolina Panthers. And I know I sort of breezed through their playoff journey to get here, but by defeating both the NFL MVPs so far, the Patriots proved that they weren't a fluke in 2001. They were here to stay. And in just 2 years, the Patriots went from overwhelming underdogs to overwhelming favorites, expected to take care of the Panthers by at least a touchdown. Now, the Panthers were a very good team, don't get me wrong, but many people believe that they capitalized off of a relatively unproven NFC in 2003, which led to a lot of people being shocked by what happened early on in this game. The Empire, that was already known for being a well-oiled machine that never makes mistakes, was slipping up, with the biggest examples being 1 missed field goal and 1 blocked field goal by the usually sure-footed Vinatieri. But luckily, the Patriots defense was still holding the Panthers to 0 points, and a Mike Vrabel strip sack would set Tom Brady and the offense up for an easy touchdown. Now, I don't know what happened next, but somehow, Panthers quarterback Jake Delhomme took Vrabel's attack on him personally and woke up to lead the Panthers to a score, but he didn't know what he was going up against, and Tom Brady started going Super Saiyan Mode 2, throwing everything he had at Carolina, taking back the lead in the 4th quarter, but Carolina just didn't care, ignoring the fact that they were playing against the #1 defense in football, ignoring the fact that they were playing against the NFL's best rising star, ignoring the fact that this was the Empire standing in front of them, and with a red zone interception on Brady and an 85-yard touchdown, Thomas and the Patriots were to be tested again. Even with the worst weapons he's ever had around him, could Tom Brady really lead the team to another come-from-behind victory in the Super Bowl? But if there was any doubt, these were the games where the Patriots culture was made to thrive in. These were the moments that would decide whether the Patriots had what it took to become a potential dynasty. And although some newer guys like Rodney Harrison began to show some doubt, I mean, he was a Charger, so who could blame him? But guys who've been here a little bit longer already have seen what Tom Brady can do, and Ty Law leaned over to tell Rodney Harrison, while losing the game, mind you, Rodney, we're not going to lose this game. You know why? Because we have Tom Brady. What immediately resulted was some of the best last couple of minutes in any Super Bowl. Tom Brady punched Jake Delhomme in the face, then Jake Delhomme punched right back harder, which would have been a great thing, except the man who caught the touchdown for Carolina was Ricky Proehl. And if that name sounds familiar, he was the guy who caught the last touchdown versus the Rams in the 2001 Super Bowl right before Tom did the thing. And with Ricky Proehl on the sideline, he watched in horror as the kickoff went straight out of bounds and the Patriots started their drive with no time off the clock on the 40-yard line. And then Tom did Tom things. He Tommed all over the field and found Deion Branch for a clutch 17 yards and went through the same process with Adam Vinatieri that he did just 2 years prior. They both looked at each other, one jogging on the field, the other jogging off, one who did their job, and the other who was about to. And from 41 yards out, Adam Vinatieri did it again. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick had conquered their second Super Bowl together, and the empire was really starting to gain some steam. The scariest part about the 2003 Patriots, though, was they were actually vulnerable. As mentioned, the run game was terrible, and in times of desperation, the offense got destroyed by Carolina. So Bill went to fix these problems and began retooling, drafting Big Vince Wilfork 21st overall to shore up the defense, but the run game still needed to be addressed. Brady had been playing great, but I mean, how sustainable was this? Deion Branch was good, but Tom Brady had really only played with one Pro Bowler on offense to this point. So Bill changed that, taking advantage of a certain Bengals disgruntled running back in Corey Dillon, who just himself in 2003, but before that had logged 6 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons and dumped a second-round pick off to Cincinnati in exchange for at least one productive season from the aging back, hopefully. So even though there was some slight tinkering, most things remained the same. Belichick and Brady were still the top two guys, and with 2 Super Bowls now under their belt, what they needed this year was another Super Bowl to cement themselves as an unquestionable dynasty, and what happened this year was nothing short of magical. Unlike how it usually goes, the Patriots came out of the gate blasting, but in Week 8, it looked like their season might be on the road to completely unraveling, when in a loss to the 15-win Pittsburgh Steelers, Ty Law broke his foot in that game and would never play another game again as a New England Patriot. So, with Troy Brown, a wide receiver plugged in to play defensive back when needed, the Patriots trudged along, going on another massive win streak before hitting one roadblock near the end of the season, losing to the trash Dolphins in a game where Tom Brady threw an uncharacteristic 4 interceptions. But on paper, the Patriots were as dominant as ever, logging yet another 14-win season. The defense was still elite despite the injuries, including another huge one to Richard Seymour, and Tom was Bradying. But in the divisional round, they could not have faced off against a tougher opponent with Peyton Manning and the Colts. But how do I put this? This wasn't a normal human being we're talking about. Peyton Manning had ascended far beyond mortal form in 2004. The man was almost averaging 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 124 over his last 9 games, with the team averaging 36 points per game. So add that onto the fact that the Patriots secondary was weaker than ever, and maybe finally, this would be the year where the Colts would prevail victorious. Still though, this is Tom Brady and Bill Belichick we're talking about here, and since Tom took over in 2001, they have yet to lose a single playoff game, but beating the Colts was never going to be easy. So although his strategy that he tried last year would no longer be valid given the new rule changes, Belichick conjured up another scheme to take down Peyton, and his final verdict turned the game into quite possibly the most unwatchable football product possible. Not only was the weather set up to be perfect for this type of battle, but the Patriots now had the perfect weapon for this scenario in running back Corey Dillon, and the plan from Belichick worked flawlessly. The Patriots only scored 2 touchdowns on the day, but both of their touchdown drives took well over 7 minutes, and on the other side of the ball, Peyton Manning, remarkably, couldn't do shit, and the Patriots once again crocked the Colts 20-3. New England moved on in glory, and Peyton Manning was pretty much league-wide labeled as a bona fide choke artist. Whether that label was warranted or not is up to you, but Belichick and Brady mercilessly kept moving forward. It was all they knew how to do, and now the 15-1 Benjamin-led Steelers would be waiting with home field advantage, and a lot more than that. This game was a nice and toasty 11 degrees, and that weather didn't exactly have great chemistry with the fact that Tom Brady was suffering from a flu so bad that he didn't even know if it was going to be possible for him to suit up before the game. But I mean, come on, a flu? You think a flu is going to stop this extravagant man? No fucking shot. And Tom dragged his ass out there on Sunday, and the game wasn't even close. Although, unquestionably, he was a great guy off the field. On the field, Roethlisberger got crushed early on in this game. And after an 87-yard pick six by Rodney Harrison, the Patriots held a 24-3 lead at halftime, and from there coasted to a 41-27 win, advancing to the Super Bowl. This game was methodical and ruthless. Brady made perfect passes despite his sickness, and the Steelers, a team that won 15 games, just couldn't compete, and now they were back again. 4 years, 3 Super Bowl appearances, and with the empire at its absolute highest point, it seemed nobody would even present a worthy challenge. But the 2004 Eagles, their opponent, was definitely an interesting team. They were led by Donovan McNabb, Andy Reid, and Terrell Owens, and as is the Philly way, this team talked some shit, and possibly unintentionally before the Super Bowl, allegedly, an Eagles employee email had been leaked to Bill Belichick, and the entire email was about where and when the Eagles Super Bowl parade would be held. So in front of the entire team, Bill Belichick began reading. It's going to go from Broad Street up to Washington Avenue, past City Hall, then down the Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and we'll end up at the Art Museum. And the Eagles will be in double-decker buses. He continued reading the rest of the email, knowing that he had to do everything he could to motivate his men, because after all, 3 Super Bowls is pretty much the threshold to be considered a dynasty, and they were right there, so he looked up at the team and uttered possibly the most New England Patriots thing I've ever heard. Do your job. Just take care of your assignment, know what it is, execute it, and get it taken care of. Now, if the Patriots already weren't motivated enough, certified scrub Freddie Mitchell, a wideout for Philadelphia, called every Patriots DB's no names and said he had something for Rodney Harrison. And although he might not have been wrong, because remember, Troy Brown, a wide receiver, was still playing DB for the Patriots, but maybe this wasn't the path to take. Philadelphia was already massive underdogs, with New England once again being favored by a whole touchdown, but more importantly, all-pro receiver Terrell Owens had a broken leg and torn ligaments in his right ankle, and somehow Terrell Owens played because he's a monster. However, it was clear which team had the advantage going into the game. So, the time had come. The final obstacle for the Patriots on their quest to a dynasty. Brady, Bruschi, Harrison, Branch, Seymour, Vinatieri, McGinnis, Vrabel, and of course Belichick were what got this team here, and now the only thing left to do was get the job done. And to start the game, the Patriots' offense was stale and flat, and for Philly, their offense also did nothing at all too, and at the end of the first half, the game was oddly tied at 7-7, and whoever would strike first in the third quarter would receive a massive momentum boost over the other. And wait, just take a bet right now. Who do you think would be the guy to do that? It was Tom. Tom Brady did it, believe it or not. And right out of the halftime break, Brady and Deion Branch connected on 4 passes, and then Mike Vrabel found himself in the end zone. But the Eagles didn't go away. Inconsistently, but eventually they found themselves in the end zone again, but they simply couldn't keep up over time. They didn't have enough firepower, and Donovan McNabb just made way too many mistakes to win a Super Bowl, throwing 3 interceptions, including 2 of them to Rodney Harrison, who I guess was still waiting for that something that Freddie Mitchell had for him. It's a shame, but the Patriots had the perfect model. If you wanted to challenge Lord Vader, slip-ups were fatal, and after a 3-and-out in the fourth quarter, Adam Vinatieri kicked a field goal to take a 2-possession lead, and a Teddy Bruschi interception later iced the game, and with that, it was done. Although the Eagles would later accuse the Patriots of cheating, the dynasty was here, and no chance the Patriots weren't going to celebrate this moment. So after some celebrating and Bill Belichick letting Freddie Mitchell know he absolutely sucks, all eyes turned to Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They were already a dynasty. 3 Super Bowls had proven that, but can they do more? The three-peat has arguably been the pinnacle achievement any sports team can possibly accomplish, and since it's never been done before in the Super Bowl era in NFL history, being named the first modern team to ever three-peat doesn't sound too bad, so the Patriots went back to work, but change had already begun to occur. The Patriots were going to go into the 2005 campaign with a different offensive and defensive coordinator than last year, with Charlie Weiss going to the college world while Romeo Crennel took the head coaching job in Cleveland, which was rough, but trust me, it's about to get so much worse. Just a few days after their Super Bowl win, one of the primary voices of the Patriots dynasty, Teddy Bruschi, suffered a stroke, and although he was doing what he could to recover, he didn't have football on his mind at all, and before the 2005 season, Teddy Bruschi announced to Bill Belichick that he would not be playing football anymore and retired on the spot. So one leader was down, and then another one was officially lost when Bill cut Ty Law, one of the best Patriots of all time, and when the season actually began in just week 3, arguably their most important tone setter on the roster, Rodney Harrison, blew out his knee and would be out for the rest of the Patriots' 2003 campaign. It was a catastrophe, by Patriot standards at least, and come week 9, the team had finally lost to the Peyton Manning Colts and held a 500 4-4 record, but eventually they started to pick things up, headlined by the miraculous recovery of Teddy Bruschi, but even that feel-good story wasn't enough, as whatever fate they had to rally their season was eviscerated when Bill Belichick's father tragically passed away in the middle of the year, and the Patriots played like shit in the divisional round, losing to Denver, finishing the year 10-6, but at least they beat the Raiders in the regular season, and all of that is what it takes to derail a three-peat. So what now? I mean, this is how dynasties crumble. All it takes is one locker room dispute and a few chemistry problems and the entire regime is overthrown. And the Patriots were just constantly checking off every single box for a collapse, and not even counting all their 2005 shenanigans. To begin the 2006 offseason, Willie McGinnis was gone to Cleveland, Adam Vinatieri fled to the enemy, and Brady's favorite target, the Super Bowl MVP versus Philly, Deion Branch, was traded to Seattle. Uh-oh. Could this be it? Was it finally time for Peyton Manning to break through and cement himself as the far better player than Thomas? And I mean, I don't mean to be rude to my man, but at this point, Tom Brady had only made 3 Pro Bowls in his career, whereas Peyton Manning had 2 MVPs, so perhaps we're about to witness the fall of a dynasty and the rise of another one in Indianapolis. Whatever, though, I guess let's just see how this goes. Palpatine brought in Junior Seau and Steven Gostkowski to fill in some crusty holes, and after a whole season of pain, things went cautiously well. Besides the fact that some players got caught doing roids, it went well. The Patriots finished the year 12-4, but they could never take out the big dogs this season. 3 of their 4 losses came to playoff-bound teams, including one of them being to the chosen forehead. And when you add on the fact that this Patriots team only had 2 Pro Bowlers in Richard Seymour and offensive tackle Matt Light, and it really looked like the Patriots were going to be in trouble. I'm not exactly sure how to put this, but once again, Tom Brady didn't have the weapons he needed around him to thrive, but it didn't really matter because in both the wild card and divisional round, they played 2 of the most unfortunate organizations in sports and incinerated the Eric Mangini-led Jets 37-16, and then the Patriots traveled to San Diego to play against the best team in the NFL record-wise, led by the MVP of the NFL in LaDainian Tomlinson. Now, if you want a more in-depth explanation of this game, I recommend checking out the Chargers video that I just did on all their misery. It's, I guess depending on your team of choice, a fun watch or not a fun watch. But otherwise, in reality, the Chargers in 2006 were led by Marty Schottenheimer, and he's not allowed to be happy. So after a few missed field goals, historic oopsies, and lucky moments, and lucky-ass moments, the Patriots actually managed to win this game. Poor Marty, man. And he even went to the press afterwards and told the media it was all his fault, which, once again, if you've seen my Chargers video, this man did not deserve this pain. Sorry. Off topic again, but the Patriots advanced to another AFC championship, and Bill and Tom still wanted another ring, except turns out the MVP of the NFL that they just defeated in the Chargers and LaDainian Tomlinson was nothing but a minion in the way of the final boss who they would face yet again. He is inevitable. It's time for Pats vs. Colts yet again, but this time, the Colts would be playing at home versus New England, and now the Colts were actually favored to take out the Patriots, and so the game began, and yeah, it was already over. 21-3. The Patriots held a 21-3 lead and dominated the game with physicality and got a little lucky along the way too. But hey, although no team had ever come back from a deficit this large in NFL history in a conference championship game, at the time, maybe there was still hope, and I say that because the Patriots started to look a little bit undisciplined. Towards the end of the first half, they got 2 bad penalties and took a sack to knock them out of field goal range, and from there, the energy had entirely shifted. The Colts got the run game going, and off of 2 short touchdowns, just like that, the game was tied even before the fourth quarter began. At this point, it was clear. This was the Super Bowl. These were the 2 best teams in football, and whoever won would go on to make a toy out of whoever advanced in the NFC South, and both teams were going to lay it all on the line for the next 18 minutes of game time, and so they did. Tom made some filthy plays to retake the lead with great field position, but Manning returned fire and the Colts cashed in with a lucky touchdown of their own, and we were right back to a 28-28 stalemate. Who would run out of ammo first? The battle-tested Thomas-led Patriots or Manning's starving Colts? The high-level football continued, until it didn't. Simply put, the Colts goofed after putting the Patriots in perfect field position again on 1st and 15. Look at this! They just didn't guard Patriots receiver Resh Caldwell, and so Brady immediately threw him the ball, and he dropped it. He f***ing dropped it. A dagger to the Patriots' chances of winning, and although initially that play seemed to be a flesh wound, it turns out that one play would come back to haunt them. When the Colts defense got a stop, the Patriots defense allowed this to happen, and Peyton Manning and the Colts took a lead 38-34 with 1 minute remaining. 1 minute, 1 football, 1 Tom Brady, and 1 last chance. He's done this before, and he might do it again. Tom started going down the field immediately, and with the Colts sideline breaking down in desperate prayer, Marlon Jackson picked him off, and that was it. And Peyton Manning would go on to win his first Super Bowl of seemingly many in Indianapolis after finally defeating his sworn enemy, 38-34. This is how dynasties die. They just got embarrassed 21-3 in front of the whole world, still to this day tied for the largest lead ever blown in an AFC Championship game. And yeah, this is how dynasties die, but the Patriots are different. And instead, they used this game as motivation and went into 2007 adapting and overcoming their past on their route to becoming the most unstoppable team in a single season. But to make that happen in the first place, it was clear that his quarterback was going to need at least some weapons. I mean, from 2001 through 2006, Tom Brady only had a single wide receiver / tight end who broke the 1,000-yard mark in his career, and that was in 2001. And what Bill Belichick did in the 2007 offseason was easily the greatest thing he could have ever done for Tom Brady, and made 2 moves in particular that would change the way football itself is played to this day. First, the free agency market was looking grim for wideouts, but Bill Belichick did the best he could, signing Dante Stallworth to a deal, and then Bill went hunting, calling countless teams on the availability of certain players, and after all his efforts were done, he had locked in 2 of the best receivers of the 2000s as New England Patriots, when the Patriots traded for future All-Pro wide receivers Wes Welker and Randy Moss. And yeah, that's a lot of firepower. And instead of a whole death ceremony thing, we're going into the second act of the first dynasty. And in this season, the Patriots would go on to have, for my money, the most dominant season in NFL history. Humor me for a split second, okay? Let me break down all the talent on this roster so you can really gauge all the assets they had. Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Steven Gostkowski, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, Junior Seau, Rodney Harrison, Asante Samuel, Ty Warren, Vince Wilfork, Richard Seymour, Adalys Thomas, and more. Those are 12 Pro Bowl at least caliber players, and this guy. 13 Pro Bowl or better guys, and when you throw in some revenge lust from the Indianapolis game last year, who was stopping these boys from doing whatever they wanted? Now, the New York Jets, who they played in Week 1, sure as hell weren't going to stop them because they just got bottomed. But something interesting did come from this game. You see, the Jets were coached by former Patriots defensive coordinator and Belichick's former, I guess, quote, friend Eric Mangini, but I don't think Bill can even have friends by law, but whatever, let's roll with it. And after Eric Mangini left New England, allegedly there was some bad blood between the two, and maybe their loss to New England in the playoffs last year didn't help ease the pain, so after their Week 1 defeat, Eric Mangini claimed the Patriots were illegally videotaping them from the sideline, and thus the infamous Spygate was set into motion. Truly, the only thing that was going to take this team down was drama, because after the game, it was confirmed that the Patriots had actually illegally taped the Jets during the Week 1 38-14 win, and the media took that narrative and just had a grand old time with it. The main headline was basically the Patriots are cheating, and all along they had been using under-the-table methods to get an advantage, and now you had guys like Hines Ward and LaDainian Tomlinson, I guess, coincidentally now deciding to come forward saying, oh, no, yeah, for sure they cheated. That's why we lost to them in the playoffs. They knew all our calls, and it was clearly rigged from the start. Now, did the NFL world overreact? Yes, but to be fair, Bill Belichick wasn't exactly helping matters by doing his usual ignoring of the press, but eventually he did issue an apology, and the Patriots were fined a few $100,000 and lost their first-round pick in 2008. But the most damage done was towards the Patriots' reputation, and if something was going to be done to repair the image of the Patriots' name, 2007 was going to have to be not only just magical, but a record-breaking season beyond the likes of which the NFL has never seen before. Anyway, after Spygate and the NFL destroying the tapes, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the rest of the loyal servants to the Sith Lord and his apprentice went to war, and what resulted was the most dominant single-season campaign in NFL history. Yeah. This team was just... I can't even put into words to describe how unfair this team was, but from weeks 1 through 11... specifically, the New England Patriots looked like they might be indisputably the best team in sports history, as by year's end, in 2007, NFL teams scored on average 21.6 points per game. And during that first 10 games sample size, the Patriots won their games by an average of 25.4 points per game. The Patriots won their games by more points than most teams were scoring in 2007. It was f***ing stupid. Nobody could stop them. Tom Brady to Randy Moss became the most dominant 1-2 punch in football, and the Patriots broke just about every record there was to break. Name a random great player on this team, and chances are they contributed to some historical feat. Tom Brady won the MVP and threw the most passing touchdowns ever at the time. Randy Moss still to this day holds the record for most receiving touchdowns in a season, headlined by a game versus Buffalo where he had 4 touchdowns in the first half. Yeah, that actually happened. Thomas was in his best form ever, with an elite O-line and weapons around him that every defense deathly feared. The Patriots' defense was still elite, and Bill was calling the shots as per usual, and all of that led to the NFL's first and still only 16-win season in NFL history, and the Patriots looked to stroll through the playoffs to casually nab another Super Bowl title with little resistance, except as the season winded down, the Patriots began to look more and more like a normal great NFL team, showing a ton of red flags instead of being the usual untouchable juggernaut they were for most of the year. Although the team did go undefeated, there was a reason I cherry-picked those weeks 1 through 11 stats earlier, as from weeks 12 through 17, people don't really remember, but the Patriots began to slow down just a little bit, noticeably struggling versus the Ravens and Eagles, both teams who failed to even make the playoffs, and then even more red flags came in when in week 15 versus the 3-win Jets at the time, Tom Brady had his worst game of the season and failed to throw for a single touchdown. In week 17, they may have got things back on track a little bit versus the New York Giants, but that didn't change the fact that this wildcard team in New York had come close to beating the almighty Patriots, but it seemed as if fate was on New England's side, because they really didn't have to do too much in the AFC on their road to the Super Bowl, as their opponents were much weaker than in previous years. The Jaguars didn't put up much of a fight, and although on paper the Chargers looked like worthy opponents, being the team that knocked off Peyton Manning's Colts, they were smited down by the football gods for robbing us of another Peyton vs. Tom matchup, with LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates both suffering serious injuries, and Phillip Rivers famously playing the game on a torn ACL. So even though Tom Brady once again, very alarmingly I might add, had a bad game and a terrible one by this year's standards with 3 interceptions, it didn't matter. And the New England Patriots found themselves in Super Bowl 42, where somehow the New York Giants were here. The Giants, like I said, were a wildcard team led by the significantly worse Manning brothers, so, I mean, what are we even talking about here? This game's gonna end after 2 drives. That was pretty much the consensus at the time. Everyone was already declaring this game over, ignoring the red flags the Patriots had been blatantly waving over the last month or so, and the fact that the Giants played the Patriots very, very close in the final regular season game of the season is also a little bit eerie. But if the Giants needed somehow a little bit of a boost, they got it. When leading up to the Super Bowl, a certain group published a story claiming that the Patriots, who just got off of Spygate, had recorded the Los Angeles Rams prior to their 2001 Super Bowl victory, which was later proven false, but you know, a little late for that. So once again, the media went into a frenzy. See, the Patriots cheated again, and they're going to cheat versus the Giants like they've cheated every single year they've won. And without a doubt, the unnecessary coverage definitely affected the Patriots going into the game. So maybe this was a genius 12D chess play from Tom Coughlin, the Giants coach, or bad luck, but whatever it was, it led to the final domino falling and the narrative around the Patriots completely changing. Back in 2001, they were the NFL's feel-good story, a team that conquered Goliath and led by a 6th-round quarterback won a Super Bowl, but now they were the enemy. Everyone wanted to see the evil empire fall, and unless you were a Patriots fan, nobody wanted to see New England pull off the perfect season. However, it was unknown what approach the Giants were going to take to actually figure out a way to win this game. Led by defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, who, remember, accused the Patriots of cheating versus the Eagles when he coached their linebackers, he chose to rely on the defense to make plays. A bold move considering how relatively unstable they had been all season long, but if this Giants team had one strength, if they had one, and they might have had 0, but their D-line was pretty good. Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, and Matthias Kiwanuka led one of the most vicious attacks in football. Sometimes. And when you supercharge this unit by giving them a deserved underdog mentality and some choice words from Thomas, that is a scary recipe right there.
We're only going to score 17 points? Okay.
We don't stand a chance.
It was time. The final test for New England to become the greatest NFL team of all time. And sure enough, as things seemed to be pending towards, the Patriots struggled. New England's usually elite offensive line was getting their hams steamed, which wasn't ideal because in the AFC Championship, the Chargers passed on the injury bug to our beloved Thomas, who suffered a high ankle sprain that was affecting him all day long. And in combination with being sacked 5 times, pressured on most dropbacks, and all the while Randy Moss was on clamps, Tom Brady clearly wasn't comfortable at all, and the Patriots were struggling mightily as a result. The Giants' defensive game plan was about as great as it could have been. Welker and Moss were double-teamed often, but this was still the 2007 Patriots, and at some point, they were going to break through, and with 2 minutes and 42 seconds left, Randy Moss was in the end zone, and the Patriots looked like they were going to win yet another Super Bowl, with Tom Brady pulling a 4th-quarter drive out of his ass. But here came Eli Manning. Peyton was finally able to conquer Tom last year, and now it was Eli's turn. But Eli chose to play football a little bit differently than Peyton, because he went out there on the field for the most important drive of his career and was just goofing around. After almost throwing a pick and fumbling the ball, you know what happens next. One of the most iconic plays in football. Eli Manning escapes Richard Seymour's clutches, avoids a self-admitted holding call, and finds David Tyree, who makes a solid grab against Rodney Harrison, that being his last ever catch in the NFL, completing one of the most iconic catches in NFL history. Look at it. The helmet catch. So much of New England's past success had been pinned on good fortune. What if the Tuck rule didn't happen? Would the Patriots have won in 2001? What if Terrell Owens hadn't been injured? And now it seemed to have all just turned on them. This, still to this day, in Eli Manning's own words, probably was the luckiest play in NFL history. And to this day, it still hasn't really been conquered. We'll get more into that later, though. So, Eli then proceeded to almost throw another interception, but then the Patriots dialed up an all-out blitz and Manning countered with a game-winning touchdown to an elite pre-bullet to his leg Plaxico Burress, and the ritual was complete. They lost Eli Manning, the chosen one, had stopped the Empire's reign, at least for the time being, and maybe he'll be called upon again in the future, but for now, the New York Giants were Super Bowl champions, and the 2007 New England Patriots, the first team to ever win 16 games in the regular season, were not. And this loss set forth a chain reaction that would change this organization forever. After the game, the Patriots locker room was full of crying and despair. Everyone was rightfully depressed after choking on the greatest stage in the biggest moment, and their wounds didn't seem to heal with time either, as a few days after the Super Bowl, Robert Kraft asked Bill Belichick how he was feeling, and he said, let's just say I haven't gone to the top of any tall building since Sunday. So, actually I take it back. Bill Belichick was much happier than usual. So, although their main motivation going into 2008 was a revenge tour to take back what was theirs, those hopes were shredded into microscopic chunks in the first week of the season, when a seemingly unsuspecting Chiefs defender, Bernard Pollard, a man nicknamed the Bone Crusher, hit Tom Brady, resulting in a torn ACL and MCL. And remember this Bernard Pollard guy, okay? He's not just your average NFL player, but for now, without Brady, the Patriots' luck just ran out, and the team finished the season with an 11-5 record and beat the Raiders, but became one of only 2 teams to ever miss the playoffs with that high of a win total since the merger. And now, going into the 2009 season, everything changed. This is the point where, if you wanted to call the first Patriots team different than the second one in terms of different dynasties, I wouldn't blame you, but in my mind, they are the same. And going into 2009, they brought in some new child soldiers while old guys were rotated out, and eventually, with time and growth, they became more powerful than anyone could have possibly imagined. So with that, let's get into the second part of the evil empire. But before we continue, this video is sponsored by Manscaped.com, who I'm sure needs no further introduction, but just in case you need to be filled in, Manscaped is a men's lifestyle brand trusted by over 9 million people worldwide. And if you're a guy, you probably have balls unless, something went horribly wrong, so if you got them, then the Performance Package 4.0 is exactly what you're looking for. First, you got the Lawnmower 4.0, an electric waterproof trimmer that comes with a spotlight and utilizes skin-safe technology, which is super helpful to trim around your tom when needed, or maybe somewhere else if you're feeling ambitious. Then you got the Crop Preserver here to stop your Brady and balls from chafing and smelling a little off, as well as the Crop Reviver to keep your skin from getting all swampy and whatnot. And finally, you got the Weed Whacker 2.0 to shave any unwanted nose hairs, ear hairs, and other miscellaneous holes you may feel needs whacking. So if the Performance Package 4.0 that also comes with a free travel bag and chafing reduced boxers sounds good to you, click the first link in the description or the pinned comment to use promo code TubFrog in all caps at checkout to get 20% off plus free international shipping. So once again, that's promo code TubFrog for free international shipping and 20% off at manscaped.com to help your tom perform at its absolute peak performance and whatnot. So thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the content. If you're going to try and prolong a dynasty, you're going to need a brand new crop of life. And luckily, Belichick had already been doing this for years, and so it all changed. Mike Vrabel and Richard Seymour were traded, and Rodney Harrison and Teddy Bruschi officially retired, and Junior Seau would eventually follow 1 year later. And in came some new dudes to lead the next era in Patrick Chung, Rob Ninkovich, Julian Edelman, Matthew Slater, the special teams god, Gerard Mayo, and others to carry on the culture into the next decade. And also, they drafted a man in 2009 named George Bussey. Just thought I'd point that out. I guess Belichick saw something he liked in that man. Anyways, with that out of the way, it began. The Patriots' quest to prove everyone wrong and cheat death was underway. But rather than a continuation of dominance, to start, this second part of the dynasty would be questioned heavily. In week 1, it took a dramatic comeback in the final minutes to beat Trent Edwards' Bills, and that weirdness continued on for the whole season. The team finished with a solid 10 wins, but they were back and forth all year long. They had incredible accomplishments like their famous 59-0 win versus the Titans, but they also struggled versus bad teams and even lost a game to former Patriots offensive coordinator and possibly my least favorite man of the last 2 years, Josh McDaniels and the Broncos. But no matter how inconsistent they were, the talent remained constant, with the Brady to Welker combination proving unstoppable as both guys finished top 5 in respective yards for their position. So although they were the definition of a tier 2 team, clearly worse than both the Saints and Colts at least, if they were going to shock people, which was possible, it was going to be because of Wes Welker and Tom Brady, with Randy Moss playing off that gravity, and their ruthless defense would have to do their usual stuff. But then, the whole season came crashing down and was incinerated in one play. In the final week of the season, Wes Welker tore his ACL and MCL, knocking him out for the rest of the season. And the man who tackled Wes to the ground on his final play was Bernard Pollard, the Bone Crusher, now a Houston Texan, had continued to be the most devastating one-man army in weakening the Patriots Dynasty, and somehow we're still not done with him. So make sure you keep remembering Bernard Pollard for later on. And without Wes Welker, the Patriots, who seemed very unstable all year, finally fell apart at the seam on the biggest stage, falling behind 24-0 to their eventual rivals, and of course, Joe Flacco, who finished the game with 4 pass completions, and eventually they lost their first ever home field playoff game under Bill and Tom 14-33, and definitely had some self-reflection to do going forward. The Patriots found themselves in a confusing transitional time, but they had no choice other than to fully trust that Bill Belichick still had a keen eye for talent, and that Tom Brady, who remember in 2010 was already getting up there in age, could still play elite football going into his mid-30s. And luckily, before the 2010 NFL Draft, Bill Belichick had a vision. The football gods spoke to him directly during one of his late-night endeavors and whispered to him, use 2 tight end formations. And so, in the upcoming draft, Belichick picked up 2 very important pieces early on with Devin McCourty and Brandon Spikes, but to complete his double tight end dream, he took 2 of the most complicated characters in NFL history, both for very different reasons. A very un-Patriot-like thing to do, but regardless, he liked the talent he saw in Arizona's Rob Gronkowski and Florida's Aaron Hernandez, and drafted both of the tight ends. A lot of crime in that draft we'll get to, but one more thing. Before the 2010 season began, Tom Brady had consistently not been paid the absolute top dollar. Over his career, he never took pay cuts per se, but contract restrictions consistently allowed the Patriots more money to go out and get key free agents. But for now, Brady signed a record-breaking $72 million deal worth $18 million per year, which, like I said, at the time was revolutionary, but in modern terms, he made about the exact same as Darren Waller makes today, who's a tight end. Now, to begin the 2010 season, the Patriots were right back to what they were before. Welker had remarkably recovered from his very serious injuries, and the Patriots jumped out to a fast 3-1 record. And then, before the trade deadline, Belichick made one final move, proving that even still, nobody's job was ever safe, banishing Randy Moss to Valhalla, which made Tom sad. So being the good parental figure he was, I guess, Bill then went out and got his old friend Deion Branch back, and now Tom was happy again. But for the rest of 2010, the Patriots defense struggled, as they were still very young, but Tom Brady, Thomas's rare 2007 form, revealed itself once more, and flanked by his 2 rookie tight ends who combined for 16 touchdowns as well as Welker and Branch, Brady and the Patriots marched to another 14-2 record, even beating Manning's Colts one last time before New England's ultimate enemy fled to another land, and the Patriots finished the season on a casual 8-game win streak, where in those 8 games, the Patriots averaged 37.3 points per game, more than their season-long average in 2007. That, of course, was enough to lock up Tom's second MVP trophy, becoming the first unanimous MVP in league history, and hosted a playoff game against quite possibly the most radioactive team in the NFL, the New York Jets. Suspend disbelief for just a second, okay? The New York Jets were the last thing Tom Brady wanted to see, because although the Patriots had statistically one of the greatest offenses of all time, the Jets' defense was one of, if not the spookiest unit in the NFL. They had the best corner duo in the league in Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie, and just came off of robbing us all of the final chapter of Peyton's Colts versus Brady's Patriots, beating them off of a walk-off field goal 17-16. Now, yes, the Jets were scary, but don't take this the wrong way. I'm not at all implying this was supposed to be a game. A few weeks ago, the Patriots mangled the Jets 45-3, putting an age restriction on the highlights of that game. And at home versus Mark Sanchez, the Sanchez? I mean, the Patriots only being favored by 9.5 points seemed low. And going into the game, what resulted was one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. Mark Sanchez, this guy, thoroughly outplayed Thomas Brady, and decisively too. Not only were his stats way better, but Tom constantly made back-breaking mistakes to swing the momentum towards New York, and midway through the third quarter, the Jets had a commanding 14-3 lead, and didn't look like they were going to let it up at all. This was pathetic. Rex Ryan was kicking Bill Belichick's ass in terms of coaching. A beautiful Santonio Holmes catch and Sean Green touchdown iced the game from there, and the 14-win season and unanimous MVP campaign went up in a cloud of ash and poison, and the Jets won the game 28-21, extending Tom and Bill's Super Bowl drought to 6 years. Let me say it again, because this loss does not get talked about enough. 10-point favorites at home, and Tom Brady got pegged by Mark Sanchez. So, from the outside looking in, people were beginning to corner the Patriots. It's been years since they've even made a Super Bowl, let alone win it, and although they've been pretty solid during the regular season, I guess, who gives a flying f***? You gotta win when it matters most, and add on some eventual uncharacteristic issues with the Patriots with Julian Edelman and Albert Haynesworth, a new acquisition, both getting arrested for the same thing. An NFL classic I'm sure you're familiar with. Good old sexual assault. And here's the thing, the 2011 Patriots season was so wild. You could honestly make the case both ways that this was the year the Patriots propelled themselves back into dynasty conversation or not. On one hand, the Patriots went 13-3 on the season. Tom Brady had a great year, and Rob Gronkowski set the record for most receiving yards and touchdowns in a season by a tight end. So there was a lot of good, but on the other hand, the team was still having some chemistry problems within the walls, and the Patriots somehow never beat a single team during the regular season that had a winning record. Not one of their 13 wins came against a squad that had a winning record. That shouldn't even be possible. And they beat the Raiders. But whatever. The Patriots went into the playoffs with cautious optimism, because with Brady and Belichick, any possibility is a possibility, except the team they were playing was quarterbacked by a guy. The team, and more specifically the player they were going against, had a random factor to him like Mark Sanchez. And apparently, not only that, but the man just had Christ himself on his side too. It's Tim Tebow, and this man has the fist of God on his side. He just logged one of the weirdest stat lines ever, beating the Steelers on a walk-off touchdown, so Tebow was powerful, in theory, because in practice, Gronk is stronger. And the Patriots dropped a statement 45 piece on Denver, with the tight end duo of Hernandez and Gronk, insert synonym for killing something here, combining for a ridiculous 261 total yards and 4 touchdowns, including 3 in the first half for Gronk. It seemed as if the Patriots were destined to return back to the Super Bowl, but there was still one obstacle in their way, and this wasn't just an obstacle. This was a heaping pile of voluptuousness. Oh my god, look at that. Look at that mustache. Sorry, I got distracted again. But the Baltimore Ravens were back, and if you could remember, they did beat the Patriots in 2009, so this game was supposed to be good, and what we got was maybe my favorite game that I've ever watched live. It was so much fun. And this game not only was just a great time, but it was evident proof that the New England Patriots Dynasty was still alive and well. The game started out chippy and ugly, as all great playoff games do, but there were flashes of what was to come. Flacco just barely missed Torrey Smith on a bomb because the man started jogging mid-route, and at halftime, the game was pretty much completely up in the air. But then, hold on, the Ravens started to actually take control of the game. As the third quarter went on, Torrey Smith redeemed himself, and then Danny Woodhead coughed up the rock on the kickoff, and if that wasn't bad enough, this is where it gets real good. Remember the 2008 Patriots season? Weird thing to say, I know, and I pretty much glossed over the whole season, but the main point to take away from that year was the Week 1 injury that knocked Tom Brady out for the entire season, right? Remember that? And do you remember who also knocked Wes Welker out for the year? Do you remember who did that too? Do you know what man I'm talking about? That man was Bernard Pollard, also known as the Bone Crusher, which leads us to the reintroduction of this returning villain from a previous arc, because as fate would have it, he was a Baltimore Raven in 2011, and on a routine tackle on Rob Gronkowski, Gronk came up limping and was diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, which would greatly hamper him throughout the remainder of the playoffs. Even down a weapon though, Tom Brady still hopped into the end zone, and eventually both teams traded interceptions, and now the Ravens were in a not so great position. Ed Reed and company did their job to the best of their abilities, but on offense they were quarterbacked by Joe Flacco, who, don't get me wrong, he's my guy, but he's not exactly supposed to lead the team down to the field versus Bill Belichick's defense. Actually, never f***ing mind. What am I saying? Joe Flacco is a deity beyond human comprehension, and the Ravens went down the field methodically, and the game was all but guaranteed to go to overtime. But then, two simple sequences made by pretty much just two guys tanked this game for the Ravens, and all their hard work was all for nothing. First, on 2nd and 1, wide receiver Lee Evans has a touchdown in his hands, but it's knocked out because of a very good defensive play / not good offensive play. And okay, whatever, they're not going to win the game, but here comes the Ravens kicker Billy Cundiff, who isn't Justin Tucker. And historically, he was a guy who had some kicking issues, but he did make 2 kicks earlier in this game. So with the game on the line, Billy Cundiff f***ing missed the field goal. 32-yard field goal. No good. Ravens go home, and the Patriots are going to the Super Bowl. It was a wild game. Julian Edelman was playing corner. The Bone Crusher did his best, but it wasn't enough. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were back, and coming off a testosterone-enhancing win like that, there was maybe only one guy in the entirety of NFL history who could stop this team in the Super Bowl, and unfortunately for the Patriots, the man I'm talking about is Eli Manning, and the team waiting for them was the New York Giants, led by Eli Manning. So, fuck. Oh, they're going to do it again. It's the same thing as 2007. The Patriots are heavy favorites again, and although the Giants once again have a great pass rush with Justin Tuck and a social advocate for safe holiday festivities, this New York team was so much worse than the 2007 team, and the Super Bowl proved it too. Although the Giants took a quick 9-0 lead because Eli Manning was using dark magic, but if the Patriots could have recovered any of the many fumbles New York gave up or didn't have 12 men on the field here, then this game could have been a Patriots blowout. I don't have an explanation for how the Giants keep doing this, but it seemed like even Bill Belichick couldn't convince the Patriots that this mental cloud over them created by Eli Manning and the Giants wasn't real. Maybe it has something to do with Bill once coaching the Giants and he doesn't want to hurt his old team, but I don't know. Slowly but surely, though, the Giants did actually start to slow down because they weren't very good. Eli and the offense couldn't get anything going other than the occasional field goal, and here we are again. 3 minutes on the clock. Bill Belichick has the Giants in prime position to be cannibalized on their own 12-yard line. The bad Manning has to go about 60 or 70 yards to win the game, and even if he did that, chances are there would still be time left on the clock for, even at the time, the most lethal weapon that could possibly be brought out in the final minutes of a Super Bowl in Tom Brady. But then, the scriptwriters, who have a tendency to get lazy sometimes and reuse scripts, used the exact same script from 2007, and on the first play of Eli Manning's last drive, once again, one of the greatest Super Bowl plays ever happened against New England.
Four-man rush. Eli coming into traffic on the sideline, and a catch by Manning.
He did it again! Eli Manning was about to ruin it all once more, going straight down the field and accidentally scoring a touchdown because they went down the field so quickly. And now, just like in 2007, all the Giants defense had to do was not give up a miracle, and the man who sealed the victory was of course one of the heroes of 2007 in Justin Tuck, who sacked Thomas, hit his signature move with his iconic face mask, and now it was all down to one play. 5 seconds left, and a Hail Mary was the only option New England had. So Tom dropped back, escaped pressure, and the whole world watched as Gronk's sprained ankle and all came just short of grabbing it on the tip, and the New York Giants did it again, winning Super Bowl 46, 21-17. Logically, there is no logic. The Patriots lost again, and even smaller fries like the Ravens have continually taken chunks out of the Patriots during this post-2009 era, and although they've proved that they can at least get back to the Super Bowl, until they've actually won one, until they actually have a lead when the clock strikes 0, nothing will be certain, and the Patriots can't really be considered a dynasty until that happens. So, retooling time. And this time, Bill Belichick had made sure that his tight end duo that had been creating linebacker mismatches each and every week wasn't going anywhere, signing both Gronk and Aaron Hernandez to killer deals, and then the Patriots drafted Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower to make sure the endless influx of young talent just kept on flowing. Besides that, though, the same guys were still running the show. Tom had been at peak performance for a decade, Gronk smash, Wes Welker was still good, and new acquisition Brandon Lloyd helped too. Vince Wilfork anchored the defense, and Devin McCourty and Patrick Chung hung down the secondary. And the Patriots did Patriots things during the regular season and had a relatively uneventful casual 12-4 campaign where they had the NFL's best offense again. And this year, where they won 12 games, was somehow their worst regular season record-wise since 2009. The most important takeaways from this regular season were the mid-season acquisition of Pro Bowl cornerback Aqib Talib, and of course New England had a few commanding statement wins, like a Week 14 dismantling of the NFL's highest-ranked team at the time in the Houston Texans, and against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 11, where Tom Brady was aware of the murmurings that Andrew Luck was crowned as the new Peyton Manning, so that, of course, pissed him off, and the man seized his opportunity and unleashed his entire arsenal of weapons on poor Andrew, nearly dropping a steamy 60-piece on the young lad. However, that game versus the Colts would actually prove very costly down the line, because Gronk went down in that game versus Indy with a fractured arm, and then after metal plates were shoved in his arm to keep him alive, basically, when the Pats outlasted Houston in the divisional round, the metal plate then broke, and now Gronk was officially done for the season, but they were able to take care of business without Gronk, and now it was time for a rematch. Same team, same place. Ed Reed and Ray Lewis versus Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, both teams that had once tasted Super Bowl glory, and the question that needed to be answered now was, who wanted it more?
So sometimes you gotta ask yourself, how great is your brain?
It is very important to know how hurt the Ravens were from last year. This team was motivated by pure rage, and they didn't want to see any team other than the Patriots in the AFC Championship, and pretty much every factor, intangible and tangible, was working in favor of the Ravens. Not only did they have the revenge thing going for them, but the Patriots fully expected to play against Peyton Manning, now a Denver Bronco, but due to some developing circumstances, that didn't happen. And at this point in the season, the Patriots' injuries just kept piling up too. Julian Edelman and Gronk were done for the season, while Aaron Hernandez was still playing through a bad shoulder injury that required surgery. And still, with all of that, the Patriots were favored by well over a touchdown. And the stacking against New England just kept on going. Aqib Talib and Patrick Chung got injured early in the game too, and with the Ravens playing with just too much heart, New England needed a spike play, but it wasn't coming so far. Welker was dropping everything, and Flacco started moving the ball with ease, and all of a sudden, the Ravens held a 21-13 lead in the fourth quarter. But Tom Brady had the ball back, and all it was going to take to bring them back into this game was one drive. One touchdown, and a Super Bowl appearance would be a reality. And so, when they needed a big play most, on 1st down and 10, Brady handed the ball off to his running back, Stephen Ridley, who got popped and fumbled the ball back to the Ravens. And do you know who made this hit? Do you know who sent Ridley straight to the locker room once he regained consciousness? Come on, you know who I'm gonna say, right? Bernard Pollard, also known as the Bone Crusher. The man did it again. And this time, the Ravens got the job done, scoring a touchdown, taking advantage of the opportunity he gave them, closing the game out 28-13. Now, you can't really blame the Patriots for that loss too much. Bernard Pollard had one more job left to do, and the man got it done. But the Patriots once again proved talent wasn't the issue, and all they had to do was not completely implode before 2013, and that's damn near what happened. Partly due to Brady restructuring his monster deal, the Patriots brought in LeGarrette Blount and Danny Amendola, but that didn't mean too much because Brady lost his top guy, Wes Welker, to Peyton Manning's Broncos, if that wasn't bad enough, and Danny Woodhead also left to the Chargers. So you know, that wasn't great, but you probably know what I'm about to talk about. It's that time. It's that time. On June 26th, 2013, one of the key young assets the Patriots had, Aaron Hernandez, was arrested and later taken into custody, where it was revealed and eventually confirmed that he had been involved in the disappearance of at least one person and was charged with first-degree murder. This shocked the NFL world, as during this time horrible controversies were coming up left and right, but this was the biggest one. The fact that this man was lining up to play football games while having taken a life just didn't sit well with people, obviously, and it didn't sit well with those inside the Patriots facility either. They knew Hernandez had something a little off with him, as it was reported he would often walk around naked in front of others, and before joining the team, Wes Welker warned Brandon Lloyd that he tends to do not great things to teammates, so keep your distance at all times. Still though, resilience was something this Patriots team was built upon, and to begin 2013, the team started off actually a little slower than usual. Now, that was acceptable because of all the drama that ran through the team from Hernandez and the chemistry that needed to be built, but in Week 12, the Patriots faced off against Peyton Manning's Broncos, and the best offense in NFL history, where they would truly be tested to see if they could hang with the best of the best. So here we were, Brady versus Manning once more, and not gonna lie, it wasn't a great start to the game. In the second quarter, the Patriots fell behind 24-0. And, I mean, even Tom Brady had never even come back from a lead that big in his entire life in the playoffs or regular season. Yet. Admittedly, though, the Broncos were actually getting pretty lucky with turnovers, and the law of averages eventually started setting in, and Tom Brady getting angry also helped things, and the Patriots stormed back completely in basically one quarter. Brady and Gronk did things, and in the end, Manning was defeated again. Peyton, that is, and the Broncos choked the game away, losing 34-31, completing the largest comeback in the history of the Patriots organization. For now. So that win was great, and so was Tom still, but his weapons were depleting by the game. Not only was Hernandez done for life, but his other tight end was just a walking hospital now. Gronk was the most dominant tight end in NFL history when he was on grass, but it had just become a luxury at this point to have him out there rather than an expectation, and par for the course, in a win versus Cleveland, Gronk blew out his knee completely, tearing his ACL and MCL, which unfortunately has begun to be a theme with this team, and that resulted in the 24-year-old's 6th surgery in just 2 years now. And at this point, it's tough to say, but his career was speculated to have just ended on that very field in Gillette. And with Gronk down, Belichick, Tom, and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels agreed that if they were going to be a good team, it wasn't going to be through the receiving core of Julian Edelman and no names like Aaron Dobson and Kembrell Thompkins. Shout out to you if you remember who those guys were, but for the remainder of the season, they rode the run game headlined by the 6', 250-pounder LeGarrette Blount, running for 189 yards versus Buffalo, and then versus Andrew Luck and the Colts in the divisional round, Tom once again took a backseat, and LeGarrette turned 24 carries into 166 yards and 4 touchdowns, with New England clinching their 3rd straight AFC Championship appearance. Would this be the year? Could the Patriots win a Super Bowl? And if they wanted to do that, unfortunately, they had to go through him again. Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos were in their way, still armed with one of the greatest offenses in NFL history, and a team that buried them 24-0 earlier in the season. So the Patriots knew how important it was to not fall behind early, and unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. Aqib Talib got injured mid-game again, and without Gronk, there just wasn't enough coal to fuel the dying engine that was the New England Patriots offense. The score was 23-3 for pretty much the entire game, and in the end, Manning got the last laugh, beating New England 26-16, earning the honors to be fed as live bait to the untamable amalgamation that was the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. So, now what? I mean, let's take a step back and look at this whole Patriots organization. There were only 2 men on the roster as players who could say they've won a Super Bowl with this team, and that would be Tom Brady and Vince Wilfork. And This team was supposed to be considered a dynasty. All they've done is lose, 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 and lose for the last decade. They had their time, and it's long in the past, so maybe we need to change the narrative on this Patriots team. They've been known as the boogeyman of the AFC, with Brady and Belichick ruling the galaxy as master and apprentice, but they sure as hell haven't been doing a whole lot of world conquering recently, and if they didn't finally break free of this new mold in 2014, this could forever be Tom Brady's legacy. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but rode an elite defense and a few lucky breaks to a bunch of Super Bowls early on in his career, and could never get it done when he was the uncontested best player on the team. The Patriots team needed a wake-up call, something to tell them they needed to get their shit together now. You're all too good to be this slightly above average, and maybe Tom Brady needed a kick in the ass too, which eventually came when in the 2014 NFL Draft, Bill Belichick drafted Eastern Illinois quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, and the message there was clear. Tom was getting old, and in maybe a year or two, at most, a quarterback change would be made final, and Bill Belichick would get a new, younger, more powerful apprentice. But if he was going to prove Belichick wrong, he wasn't really going to have too much more help than in years past either. The defense got some pieces though, with Patrick Chung returning after spending 2013 in Philly, as well as a one-year rental of the best cornerback in the AFC in Darrelle Revis, who although wasn't the Revis Island of old anymore, he still made an all-pro team this season, which isn't a shot at him at all. It's just kind of a testament to how great he was on the Jets, and remember what he did to the Patriots in 2010 too, so he really was just that guy for a hot minute there. The 2014 Patriots were going to be a good team for sure, with most people having them as a fringe top 5 team before the season, but the idea that they were going to be Super Bowl champions seemed ludicrous early on. Through the first 4 weeks of the season, the Patriots found themselves with a 2-2 record, where they beat the Raiders, and although slow starts weren't super unorthodox for New England, this one was different. They got shut out by the Chiefs 17-0 at halftime, and in the locker room at the break, everyone was pissed. So Bill Belichick made one of his trademark emotionless speeches and simply said, hey, this second half will define who we are as a team for the rest of the season. And so the second half came, and Tom Brady and the Patriots battled back to No, that didn't happen. I'm just joshing ya. The Patriots got their guts rearranged and were railed for yet another half by Alex Smith and company, but the Patriots did fight. They never gave up. Players were getting in fights, and after the embarrassing loss on Monday night, they all went back home and came back to practice the next day beyond angry. But by the time the first couple of staff arrived at the Patriots facility the next morning after the game, they found Tom Brady already there. Turns out, while everyone was pissed off, Tom Brady was losing his mind and didn't sleep after the loss. He stayed at the stadium all night long studying everything there was to know about the Cincinnati Bengals, the Patriots' next opponent, where, before the game, reporters asked if Bill Belichick would consider a quarterback change. And yes, this was the week where we got the famous Bill Belichick Cincinnati press conference from.
What do you think having a 37-year-old?
We're on to Cincinnati. We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
And poor Cincinnati didn't stand a chance against the full wrath of the New England Patriots dynasty at maximum strength. And from week 5 on, the New England Patriots were a brand new team. They steamrolled everyone in their path, including 2 of the AFC's strongest in Peyton's Broncos and Andrew Luck's Colts, dropping 40-pounders on both of them in a 3-week span, and finished the regular season 12-4, only losing one more game that season where they didn't rest their starters in. Playoff time yet again, and because there's no parity with this team, right out of the gate, we're hopping right back into the Ravens-Patriots rivalry. 2 first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks throwing heavyweight whoppers at one another, and after the dust settled for the first 3 quarters, the Ravens were kicking ass. Ed Reed and Ray Lewis were gone, but they still had Flacco, baby, yeah! And they held a 28-14 lead, pushing the Patriots into a corner. And in this corner, they had no other choice but to use their trump card. Bill didn't want it to have to come to this, but he decided to manipulate the ancient rules of football in order to engineer a comeback. It's sort of complicated to break down, but basically the Patriots put in tight end Michael Homenawanua into the game at left tackle, and under a technicality due to his jersey number, he could be an eligible receiver while Shane Vereen or some other Patriots pass catcher could be called as ineligible. So to put it more simply, the lineman could catch passes, but a certain Patriots receiver who was running routes could not. It was cheeky, but it worked. Michael caught 2 passes on a drive that led to a Gronk touchdown, and John Harbaugh was not having it. Belichick was pulling off some fuckery that technically was legal, but the cheese that came out of Bill's playbook that day was not done yet. And just a few minutes later, Julian Edelman threw a 51-yard touchdown to Danny Amendola, and it worked perfectly. But Flacco didn't go away, and they could have had the lead if Owen Daniels brought in this touchdown, but a field goal wasn't terrible, and it was all they could muster. And meanwhile, Tom Brady went straight down the field as he's done time and time again, connecting with receivers to give the Patriots the lead with just a few minutes left. And in the end, the Ravens came up just short. An interception sealed things, and despite the Patriots' leading rusher Brandon Bolden going for 7 yards, the Patriots won another one versus Baltimore, 35-31, and moved on to the Indianapolis Colts, where things got a little bit steamy. It got very controversial, and you know where I'm going with this. It's time for the AFC Championship, Patriots vs. Colts, and the media story that took the world by storm, Deflategate.
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 Is Tom Brady a cheater?
Now, let's establish the facts here, and I'll let you form your own opinion, because honestly, it's still a heavily debated topic regarding the Patriots' legacy. So, the story goes, in the AFC Championship versus the Colts, Tom Brady threw an interception to DeQuell Jackson, and when he brought the ball to the sideline, people felt like it was a little underinflated. So during halftime, the balls were tested, and it was confirmed that 11 out of the 12 balls the Patriots used were significantly deflated. But then it was revealed that the initial testing reports were just wrong, and later determined that 5 out of the 11 balls were just barely under the limit. They also tested the Colts balls at halftime too, but they didn't get around to all of them, but the ones that they did test seemed to be of regulation level. So that's pretty much all you need to know for the insanity that was Deflategate. The one more important detail is that the Patriots just absolutely smeared the Colts into the solid earth in the AFC Championship. The game was never close at any point, and off of the back of playoff LeGarrette Blount and his 150 yards and 3 touchdown performance, the Patriots got the win 45-7. Don't worry, there will be more on Deflategate after the 2014 season, but now it was Super Bowl time. Still, remember, it has been 10 years since this team has won a Super Bowl. 10! And Bill and Tom made it clear everyone needed to lock in, which was pretty difficult given how much the media was asking about Deflategate, but Belichick is the master of media deflection and did the usual, if you're not asking me about Seattle, I couldn't give less than a fuck what you're about to tell me. So here we are, Super Bowl 49, the reigning Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, a team that was primed to become the next NFL dynasty, led by their legendary defense and superstar quarterback, versus the ghost of the past, the New England Patriots, who were once a dynasty but for a decade have just lingered around and were hungrier than ever before now to prove the dynasty never died. It just needed some time to reload. And thus began, in my eyes, the best game in NFL history. The Patriots planned to limit Russell Wilson's big playability as much as possible, while Seattle relied on their defense and pass rush to neutralize Brady, and oh my god, this game was perfect. I wouldn't change anything about, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The game was an even duel for the first half. When the Seahawks didn't score, the Patriots didn't score. When Tom finally got things going, so did Russ. And at halftime, the score was tied at 14 even. But the Seahawks had a leg up. They had a spark plug, and that came from the famous Foot Locker employee, Chris Matthews, who along with the rest of the Seahawks receiving corps after the first quarter was toasting New England. So the decision was made to basically bench DB Kyle Arrington, and in his place entered cornerback Malcolm Butler, an undrafted rookie free agent, now guarding Jermaine Kearse and Chris Matthews for pretty much the remainder of the Super Bowl. Now, this is insane for any team other than the Patriots, because Bill had full faith in the mentality that was the next guy up idea, and everybody should always be ready for anything, and so even a rookie undrafted player like Malcolm Butler was actually able to help, but he wasn't helping enough, I guess, because eventually Seattle took a huge lead off of a textbook screen by the Zebra here. But Tom Brady would not be denied this year. If he was going to lose this game, it was not going to be because of him, and 2 furious drives later, and the Patriots held a 4-point lead, where Tom Brady would sit on the bench on the sideline, forced to watch and pray that the defense could do their job one time, but in the back of his mind, Tom probably knew what was going to happen. It's already happened time and time again. Some bullshit was going to get whipped out at the last possible moment and steal the game away, and then it happened. Russell Wilson found Jermaine Kearse down the sideline, and somehow, some way, he hauled in one of the most unlikely passes in NFL history. The air was sucked out of the Patriots completely. They were dead, and everyone knew it, but for the players on the field, they knew this was not the time to give up. They still had a job to do, and in one of the most overlooked plays in NFL history for my money, if you stop it right here, it looked like Marshawn Lynch has a free walk into the end zone, right? I mean, everyone's completely blocked, but Dante Hightower still didn't lose hope. Even though he was being blocked by a Pro Bowl 310-pounder in Russell Okung, Hightower shrugged the block and tackled one of the hardest runners in NFL history to stop a touchdown. Which means it's time. The Patriots decided to not call a timeout, and the rest is history. The Seahawks passed the ball. I don't understand. You had beast mode in the back. I lost my cool. I'm sorry, that was unprofessional. But, this game really hurt me in the moment. I was a little kid back then, and I was never a Seahawks fan, but if I ever had to give up being a Raiders fan, Seattle would probably be my #1 choice. And as someone who was raised to look at the Patriots as dictators of the NFL, when they got the interception, I was broken. I cried in the bathroom for about 30 minutes, and afterwards I was just constantly Googling why the Seahawks would ever pass the ball with Marshawn Lynch. I didn't get it, and I still don't get it now, but history's history. And when the clock struck 0, the Patriots had more points than Seattle. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were now officially Super Bowl champions once more, and the Empire wasn't dead. It was merely biding its time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and the time had finally come. So, welcome to the second life of the Patriots Dynasty. Before the 2015 season began, I promised I'd touch more on the whole Deflategate issue, so I will. The NFL basically just concluded that it was more probable than not that the Patriots deliberately deflated the footballs versus the Colts, and as a punishment, Tom Brady was set to be suspended for 4 games, which was later pushed back after some legal battles, and more importantly towards the team, they took away their first-round pick in 2016, which was vital towards maintaining an elite team. Regardless, New England did their best to leverage Deflategate as a form of motivation for the 2015 season, maintaining their innocence throughout, and yeah, in 2015, they were clearly pissed off. The Patriots started the season off 4-0, and I know I haven't really been showing a ton of stats in this video because you already know how nuts Gronk, Brady, and the other dudes I'm talking about are at football, but through 4 games, Tom Brady was putting up these numbers and was undefeated. At the age of 38. Absolutely obscene. And the Patriots continued their stretch of dominance as Lord Vader and the crew went into enemy territory versus the Colts, and in the face of thousands of fans calling them cheaters, they pulled off the win, and eventually their losing streak was broken by the Denver Broncos led by Brock Osweiler, but they finished the 2015 season limping to 12 wins for the 4th straight year. But unlike last year, the team was still mentally strong, but they were damaged, and maybe damaged beyond repair. The defense was already weaker than in years past, with Revis gone and Vince Wilfork leaving a black hole in his place after he left for Houston, but the injuries were just stockpiling to the point that it looked like it might just consume them whole. Gronk and Edelman were dealing with the usual during the regular season, and come playoff time, the Pats would be without key pieces on offense in lineman Nate Soldier and both of their top 2 running backs, LeGarrette Blount and Dion Lewis. And matching up against the Kansas City Chiefs, who came into this game winning their last 11 straight, it seemed like a prime opportunity to watch an apex predator fall. Or not. The Patriots are simply just a different breed. I don't know. They clamped Travis Kelce early and took a 14-3 lead, and with no good running back, they had Tom just take home the game 27-20, where they would advance to yet another AFC Championship, where for the final time, the last ever matchup of the greatest rivalry in modern NFL history would take place. Chapter 17 of Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. Except this time, the narrative around these two legends had changed very, very drastically. At one point in time, although the Patriots have always been looked at as the roadblock in the AFC, they weren't this evil organization yet, and instead the narrative focused more on, can Peyton Manning stop being such a f***ing choke artist and overcome his personal demons and beat the impassable object in front of him? But now, the roles of the good guy and the bad guy have switched completely. Nobody was rooting for the Patriots. Everyone wanted to see Peyton Manning, in probably his last season ever, retire on top with a Super Bowl, and the Patriots, the Empire, already had enough. I mean, just give Peyton Manning this one for old time's sake, please? Now, there were also other factors to this game, though, that New England didn't know about, and come game time, they figured it out quickly. The Broncos had one of the greatest defenses in NFL history, and they just beat up New England. Tom Brady had statistically his worst AFC Championship showing ever, and even after attempting a fourth quarter comeback that came down to a failed two-point conversion, the final duel between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady was over. It was a far cry from what a Peyton vs. Brady game usually was, because the forehead had more control over his than his arm at this point, but the defense carried and the Broncos won the game 20-18 and would go on to win the Super Bowl, sending the Sheriff into the football afterlife a two-time champion. But this isn't a Broncos video, and the Patriots were in a weird position now. They proved they could still win Super Bowls in 2014, but Tom Brady was now 39 years old, pushing 40, and the best old quarterbacks of all time, like Brett Favre and coincidentally Peyton Manning, both couldn't make it a full season past 40, so science was on the side of moving on from Brady as soon as possible, and Belichick, of course, agreed, making it clear to Robert Kraft he wanted to go with Jimmy Garoppolo for the future. But he can't just bench Tom Brady, he'd be assassinated on his way home from work, but luckily, I guess, the Deflategate suspension was set to kick in this season, so for the first 4 games of the year, Tom Brady would be suspended, and it was the Jimmy G show now. He only played in 2 games due to injury, but in those 2 games, when Tom wasn't playing and Jimmy was the guy, he looked real good. 250 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks that's literally just diet Tom Brady, and if he got more time to develop, anything is possible, I guess. But eventually, Tom came back and took the job from both Jimmy G and Jacoby Brissett with no controversy and willed the Patriots to another historic season. You know how it is at this point. The Patriots won 14 games, had one of the highest point differentials in NFL history. Gronk got hurt and was out for the year, and come mid-January, once again, the Patriots were ready to host yet another divisional round game. And in the divisional round, the Patriots faced off against the unworthy Houston Texans, quarterbacked by Brock Osweiler. I mean, the poor guy just wanted to steal some money from Houston, and now he had to go against a team that damn near went undefeated in the regular season. And the game was actually very sloppy, but Thomas pulled through. And then in the AFC Championship game, the Patriots came in versus the Pittsburgh Steelers as heavy favorites and were expected to get the job done. Now, it's been a hot minute since Thomas met our boy Weinstein in the playoffs, but just like last time, New England exterminated Pittsburgh, and behind 2 dominant performances from his new Wes Welker and Chris Hogan and Julian Edelman, they helped propel them to a 36-17 win, and the Patriots were back in the Super Bowl, where the Atlanta Falcons, led by the MVP of the NFL, Matt Ryan, would wait. I've been avoiding talking about this game for so long. It's been so many videos where I just skip over it, but it must be done. It has to be done. So this is not going to be easy. Bear with me. The Atlanta Falcons were a team that was not supposed to be here, to be honest with you. Midway through the 2016 season, by week 13, they barely had above a 500 record. But a late season turnaround and 2 blowout playoff wins versus teams with Super Bowl DNA had brought them to the octagon to square off against the NFL's final boss. And look, chances are, if you've been following the NFL, you know what happened in this game. You know the Falcons took a 28-3 lead in the 3rd quarter and then lost it. But the real question is, how the f*** did they figure out a way to blow it all? It seemed like there was no way out of this hole, even for Tom Brady. He had come back from massive deficits before, even versus Hall of Famers, but never before have the Patriots looked so defeated. The Falcons almost just looked younger out there and had more energy, and watching the Patriots even try to whip out some of their old cheese that worked to spark comebacks before, only for that to fail, seemed to just end things completely. And as what tends to happen in their Super Bowls, the Patriots just didn't have luck on their side either. Most of the time. Even when they scored a touchdown, finally, Stephen Gostkowski missed the extra point, and a failed onside kick already set the Falcons up into field goal range, and 3 points would be devastating to New England's chances of coming back. So, Falcons offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan then checked his traditional choke sheet and checked off both a holding call and a sack, and after doing both, the Patriots got the ball back and answered with a field goal, giving Atlanta another chance to put the game away mathematically. But everything that could go wrong did. Devontae Freeman on third down whiffed his blocking assignment, and in came one of the Super Bowl heroes, Dante Hightower, to strip sack Matt Ryan, and mere moments later, combined with the Falcons' earlier missed opportunity on a field goal, scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to bring the game within one possession. So, the Falcons were choking, and at this point, were nearly passed out on the floor, but nature had yet to take its course on the Birds, because remember, they were a good football team, and good football teams have good players, and one of their good players was named Julio Jones, a first-ballot Hall of Fame wide receiver, who made one of the greatest catches ever to all but ice the game with an inevitable field goal. All they needed to do was run the ball like 3 times for a yard or two, take the clock down to 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and kick a 35-yard field goal or so to make the game 31-20. He did it again. Jake Matthews got another holding. And just like last time, it kicked the Falcons out of field goal range, and so they were forced to punt, and the darkness started to set in. Tom Brady jogged back onto the field, and everyone knew what was going to happen. If you don't go for the head with New England, you're going to pay the price. And so Tom Brady, wielding his football and red lightsaber, was on the right side of one of the luckiest plays you'll ever see, and then he got a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And fuck me, it's tied up 28-28 with 57 seconds remaining, with the Patriots being an overtime coin toss away from pulling it off. Matthew Slater jogged onto the field, and so did Atlanta's Matt Ryan. The coin went up in the air, and that was it. The Falcons' defense was already dead, but the NFL rules required that Thomas, I guess, return back to the field and actually score points to officially end the game, and so Brady marched down the field, dink and dunk, until the former 6th-round pick became a 5-time Super Bowl champion and 4-time Super Bowl MVP, as the New England Patriots pulled off the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history by near 15 points, winning the game 34-28. One team continued down one path and the other just kept going down theirs. The Falcons proceeded to go 34-28 over their next 62 games because the NFL wants them to suffer. And on the other side of things, the New England Patriots were on top of the world still. The Empire still had some gas left, and they just wouldn't die. Teams have tried to kill them, but they just kept coming back. Peyton got them a few times, but they came back. The Bone Crusher did all he could, but they came back. The Ravens, Broncos, Giants, and whoever took massive chunks out of them, but they always came back. So going into 2017, the only thing that mattered to the players was yet another Super Bowl title. And for Bill Belichick, obviously he wanted to keep winning, but come on now. Tom Brady was 40 years old. They had their fun, but it was Jimmy Garoppolo's time now, and the dispute between Robert Kraft and Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick ramped up even more. Bill refused to trade Garoppolo, and he did eventually trade third backup Jacoby Brissett, but Jimmy was going to be the future, not this 40-year-old geezer. It had always been Belichick's style to bring in the new when the old was approaching their end, but Robert Kraft disagreed. Tom Brady was not going to be leaving, and he made that clear. Either trade Jimmy Garoppolo or you're out. And so he was forced to trade his most prized possession. But Belichick can be a little bit petty sometimes, and rather than taking the best deal on the table, he denied offers for better picks because because no shot he was going to send Jimmy to Cleveland, and traded Jimmy G to the 49ers for just a second-round pick. In my mind, mainly because he kinda wanted Jimmy Garoppolo to succeed and prove to Robert Kraft that he was right about him. So Jimmy was out, Tom was still in, and the 2017 season was definitely one to remember. Before the year, they brought in more reinforcements with Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore, and even with Julian Edelman tearing his ACL in preseason, knocking him out for the entire year, the Patriots got it done in the regular season. The defense was uncharacteristically weaker than usual, but Tom Brady found a new body and had one of the best seasons of his career, putting up these stats. And once again, the man is older than 40 and won the MVP for the third time. And they beat the Raiders too. Now, this year was different because for the first time in a while, another team actually threatened their chances at the #1 seed, and that team was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And in Week 15, the Patriots and Steelers would face off in a duel to effectively decide who was going to take home field advantage for themselves. The game was as close as a football game can be. The Steelers honestly looked like at least the more talented team, but it didn't matter, because in the end, Jesse James's touchdown was ruled an incompletion, and the Patriots won the game, and you know, it actually didn't really matter too much in hindsight because the Steelers would go on to lose in the playoffs before ever even facing New England. But if the matchup was going to happen, then this game would have been absolutely crucial. And although the Steelers didn't, the Patriots took care of business in the playoffs. First, they played against Marcus Mariota, so nothing more needs to be said there. But then, the New England Patriots would host the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team eerily similar to the 2010 Jets. They had a stupidly great defense that was #1 in most advanced metrics, but a mediocre offense. And given the Patriots' circumstances, it seemed like the Jaguars with this stacked defense might just be their kryptonite. And then things got even more interesting when before the game, Tom Brady got injured.
The Patriots will fall. It'll be all over. The evil empire will be no more.
Is this a big deal?
Yes, it's a big deal.
Just before the AFC Championship, the most important game of the season, mind you, that had damn near just become another game for this organization, Tom Brady almost shattered his thumb in half in practice, and after rushing in a doctor, Tom Brady required 25 stitches in the area, and his chances of playing in the game seemed extremely low, but many thought it wasn't a big deal and probably was just a little jammed finger or something, and Tom would be fine. Tom was not fine. This was no jammed finger. Tom was feeling a ton of pain every time he even attempted to pick up a ball, but a mere 25 stitches wasn't enough to knock old Thomas out of this game. And they were rolling early on versus Jacksonville, but things got a little harder when Gronk did his yearly playoff exit and wouldn't return with a concussion, so this game was going to be on extra hard mode for New England from now on. And you know, to be honest with you, this really should have been the game where the dynasty was stopped, and the Jaguars should have taken their spot as the new kings of the AFC. However, Myles Jack being called down and Blake Bortles just professionally blowing ass was just enough to tank one of the best defenses of the last 10 years, and the Patriots, led by one of the gutsiest, forgotten performances of Tom Brady's career, ending in a Danny Amendola touchdown, won the game 24-20, and it was Super Bowl time yet again. Super Bowl 52 was here, and the Patriots Dynasty has been going on for so long that they played the Eagles in the Super Bowl with Tom Brady at quarterback and Belichick on the sideline, except they had an entirely different team now, with the first headline revolving around the Eagles' unlikely playoff run behind backup quarterback Nick Foles and his girth. But the second headline happened right before the game, when it was revealed that the Patriots' previous Pro Bowl corner and Super Bowl 49 savior, Malcolm Butler, would be benched, and Eric Rowe would replace him of all of his duties. And early on, it looked like that decision would come back to haunt Belichick. Rowe was getting cooked and seared by Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith early, giving up an extremely important touchdown that gave the Eagles all the confidence they needed to know that even with Nick Foles, they could shred a defense that has been vulnerable all year long. To his credit, though, Eric Rowe actually did get better as the game went on, and Bill's plan began to fall in place. Brady was playing out of his mind, not only for his age, but just for a quarterback, period. And on defense, they would simply bend but not break, and after Brady found Gronk to take a lead, with 9 minutes and 22 seconds left, Nick Foles, who is a backup quarterback, by the way, just had to make that clear, needed to go near 80 yards to score a touchdown. Anything less than exactly a touchdown, and Brady and the boys still had a great chance at a win. But this is where Belichick made a fatal mistake. Nick Foles is immeasurably powerful, and Doug Peterson has some big old balls, and the Philly special earlier in this game proved both of those things. But then the Eagles went for it on 4th down on their own side of the 50, and it worked, and the Eagles kept creeping closer and closer to the goal line, and the Patriots defense bent and bent and bent. And then eventually, Belichick's unit broke. Zach Ertz extended the ball over the goal line, and Philadelphia now had a lead. Still, down 5, you wouldn't want any player with the ball in their hands more than Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. So when the Patriots offense returned to the field, the feeling of dread and darkness came with them. But this time, it just didn't work out for them. Brandon Graham got free and the Eagles iced the Super Bowl moments later with a Hail Mary breakup, and the Patriots fell 41-33. The Patriots lost, but Tom Brady played arguably the best Super Bowl he's ever been in. Once again, let's appreciate how ridiculous it is that the man has a large enough sample size of Super Bowl games for that to even mean anything, but his stats, 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. To this day, that is the most passing yards ever in a Super Bowl, and the Patriots offense is still the only team in Super Bowl history to never punt a single time. And they lost to Nick Foles. This is why I love football. I mean, Tom can't do this forever, right? The man was 41 now, and curiously, Tom Brady only had 2 years left on his contract. He would be with New England for the 18 and 19 season, but maybe that was it. There have been little talks over extension, and with Bill and Tom's relationship becoming more and more solely competitive on the field, it seemed like at some point within the next season or two, the most dominant master and apprentice duo in NFL history would be split apart. But for now, the 2018 season started off on a crazy note. Bill Belichick had actually officially traded Rob Gronkowski to the Detroit Lions. The deal was literally finalized. Bill saw no more use for Gronk with all of his injuries now, but Rob told Bill, if you trade me to the Lions, I'm just gonna retire. And I mean, fair enough, it is the Lions.
Take him to Detroit. No, not Detroit!
So Gronk stayed and Edelman was still here too. He just tried to get a boost and was caught, so he missed a few games, but that wouldn't matter, right? And well, for the first time in a long time, the Patriots began to show signs of decay. In week 6, they were involved in a regular season classic with the Chiefs and were introduced to a potential heir to the throne in Patrick Mahomes, with some foreshadowing there. Then from weeks 10 through 15, the Patriots lost 3 games to teams that would go on to miss the playoffs. The Steelers played up to competition, the Dolphins pulled off the Miami Miracle, and the Titans, well, we'll get to them in a few minutes. But the Patriots finished the season with an 11-5 record, their worst record since the 2009 season. Can you believe that? From 2010 through 2017, this team won at least 12 games every year. And meanwhile, the Raiders haven't even won a playoff game in my entire lifetime. It's not fair, man. This isn't fair at all. So the Patriots walked into the playoffs looking straight up vulnerable. Gronk has always been banged up. Josh Gordon, who had been their most productive receiver outside of Edelman, basically retired in late December and then was banned from the NFL again, but still, the team plunged forward. Brady had yet another strong year, and as is tradition, they didn't even give the Chargers the luxury of making their divisional round competitive, and it was time for the game of the year. Everyone was waiting to see the Chiefs versus Patriots, the old versus the new in the AFC Championship game. Tom Brady at age 41 versus Patrick Mahomes at age 23. And in this game, the crown would be transferred from Brady and Belichick to Mahomes and Reed forever. But as we've learned so far in this video, do not, and I repeat, do not feed the beast. If you can give Tom Brady any, and I mean anything resembling hate, he's gonna use that to fuel his hatred, and the Sith Lord proved he wasn't done yet. The Patriots had full control of the game for the entire first half. Tom and the offense did enough, and the defense was confusing the hell out of a young Mahomes to take a 14-0 lead. However, Mahomes can only be held down for so long, so when the Chiefs, who averaged a league-best 35.3 points per game, started to score, the question became, could this old-ass Patriots team led by Tom Brady and Rex Burkhead, I guess, keep up, and he and the offense actually could, and eventually Sony Michel retook the lead to swing the game back to New England 24-21. But these are what all-time greats do. Mahomes answered, and Brady was forced to go down the field again on the road, and then it happened. Earlier, Edelman dropped the ball, resulting in a pick, and now a Gronk drop all but ended the game. But D Ford was offsides. Me. Never mind then. The drive goes on, and with 40 seconds left, Rex Burkhead was in the end zone, which miraculously led to Mahomes getting the Chiefs into field goal range, where the game would go to overtime. And sudden death is a curious thing to New England, and since 2001, they have been maybe the last team you want to go up against in a coin toss, winning 10 of their 16 coin tosses in total in overtime games, and in the playoffs, they've never lost a coin toss under Bill and Tom, and that fortune kept going in this game. The Patriots won the coin toss, and with momentum on their side, who else but Edelman, Gronk, and Brady made clutch plays, and Rex Burkhead cashed in the final score, and the Patriots shocked the Chiefs 37-31, and were on to their 9th Super Bowl appearance under Brady and Belichick. This is not okay. It is year 18 of the Dynasty, and they're still in the Super Bowl. And the team they're playing against was the Los Angeles Rams, led by Todd Gurley and Aaron Donald. And although Todd Gurley would be hampered by an injury through this game and would basically be useless, that also helped to result in one of the most boring Super Bowls in NFL history. In other words, exactly what Bill Belichick wanted. The Patriots offense did very little, but so did the Rams, and deep in the fourth quarter, the game was locked at 3-3. The Patriots were old, beaten, and broken, but they could still make plays from time to time. A massive Gronk catch proved those old bones could still work, and that led to a Sony Michel touchdown, so the offense had done its job, and now the defense had their opportunity to get it done. But Jared Goff was actually getting his best drive going now, almost connecting with Brandon Cooks for a massive touchdown, but the man he was testing, who may have held him a little bit, was Stephon Gilmore, the Patriots' all-pro corner who had quickly developed into arguably the best player at his position in the league. And after the Cooks play almost worked, Goff basically tried the exact same thing again, and this time, Gilmore was ready and picked him off, giving it right back to New England. And now, the offense and defense did its part, and so it was the special teams' turn. And just how it happened versus the Rams 17 years prior, a Patriots kicker this time, Stephen Gostkowski, came onto the field and just barely made a 41-yard field goal, and that was it. They just keep going. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick won another Super Bowl. They're 6th together, and the Patriots won the game 13-3. But unfortunately for New England, if this Super Bowl showed anything besides the fact that this team had built the greatest dynasty in NFL history, the Pats just used all their fuel at the end of the year, and the 2019 season would bring the death of the Patriots dynasty. The writing was on the wall all year long. Robert Kraft got a little excited, Antonio Brown didn't work out, Gronk retired, and although they started out the season 8-0, their schedule was really weak, and the final nail in the coffin that was made a decade prior seemed to come when Ryan Fitzpatrick, of all people, and the Dolphins knocked the Patriots out of the 1 seed, forcing them to play in the wild card. And in the wild card, one man came to liberate us all. The prophesized King Derrick Henry would be the last thing this once great dynasty saw before imminent death. And of course, the only way the Patriots were going to be broken down would have to be from within. And on the sideline for the Titans would be a very familiar face, with former Super Bowl winning linebacker Mike Vrabel being the head coach, doing everything, maybe a little bit too much, but he was committed to bringing down the very dynasty he helped build. And throughout the game, it felt off. Were the Patriots really done? This can't be it. They can't lose like this, and it didn't really set in for me until Tom Brady's last career pass as a Patriot was picked off and taken back for a touchdown by a former Patriot and Super Bowl champion Logan Ryan, when it really hit me. This was it. The New England Patriots dynasty was finally over. And after the wildcard loss, Belichick and Brady split up. And as of the recording of this video, they would both go on to have wildly differing success. Brady won another Super Bowl with Tampa, then rode off into the sunset, whereas Bill Belichick, as of the recording of this video, just mutually parted ways with the Patriots. He totally wasn't fired. And now, all that remains from this juggernaut in New England is Robert Kraft, and I could go more in depth into the actual falling out between Belichick and Tom Brady, but I mean, Jesus, this video is already well over 2 hours long, so I'm gonna spare you from that. So, while the debate continues on about who deserves more credit between Bill and Tom, one thing's for sure. For about 20 years, a head coach who nobody could get along with and a 6th-round quarterback teamed up to form the most dominant dynasty in NFL history. And with other key contributors, the New England Patriots, from 2001 through 2019, formed the greatest dynasty the NFL has ever seen. Anyways, if you like this video, then subscribe, because I got a lot of videos on the channel just like this one. And if you did like this video, then watch this video that I did on the tragic downfall of Robert Griffin III. It's pretty good, trust me. And also thanks to my Patreons for pledging $1. It really means a lot. But anyways, until next time.